In this episode, we focus on what happens when preparation becomes performance. Because exam day is not the day you learn new material, it is the day you access what you already built. The goal is to execute a game plan that keeps your mind steady, your decisions consistent, and your time under control from the first question to the last. Many learners lose points not because they do not know the concepts, but because stress changes how they read, how they second-guess, and how they manage momentum. A calm game plan protects you from those traps by giving you a simple set of behaviors to follow when pressure rises. Decisive does not mean rushed. It means you commit to a method, you trust your reasoning, and you move forward without getting stuck in loops of doubt. To full effect means you use everything you prepared, including your retrieval cues, your contrast thinking, and your confidence calibration. So the exam becomes a sequence of manageable decisions rather than a single overwhelming event. The rest of this time is about building a steady execution mindset that you can rely on even when you feel nervous. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Your first win on exam day is creating the conditions for a clear head, because cognition depends on basics that are easy to dismiss. You want your sleep and routine to support stable attention rather than trying to squeeze in last-minute cramming that keeps your brain awake and unsettled. Your brain retrieves better when it is rested and when it is not overloaded with brand-new material. You also want to reduce decision noise before the exam, which means simplifying your morning and minimizing distractions that spike adrenaline unnecessarily. A calm start helps you enter the test with a sense of control, and control reduces impulsive mistakes like misreading a keyword or skipping a step in your reasoning. It is also worth reminding yourself that feeling nervous is normal and not a sign of failure, because the body often interprets importance as anxiety. If you treat that sensation as energy you can use rather than as a threat, it becomes easier to focus. The day is not about being emotionless, it is about being steady. When the exam begins, your most valuable habit is to read each question as if it is a miniature contract that tells you exactly what you must deliver. Many wrong answers happen because the learner answers a question they wish had been asked instead of the question that is actually on the screen. That error often comes from reading too fast, or from seeing a familiar term and jumping to a memorized response. A calm game plan includes a deliberate pause to identify what the question is truly testing, such as whether it is asking for a definition, a best next action, a prioritization decision, or a governance concept like ownership and reviews. This pause does not have to be long, but it has to be consistent, because consistency is what protects you late in the exam when fatigue sets in. When you identify the question type, you load the right mental toolbox and avoid chasing irrelevant details. This is also where your retrieval cues work best, because they quickly point you toward the correct concept family. The payoff is fewer misreads and fewer decisions driven by panic. A useful way to stay decisive is to adopt a stable decision loop that you repeat on every question, because a stable loop reduces mental strain. You begin by clarifying the intent, then you search for a direct answer from your understanding, and if it is not immediately clear, you move to eliminating options that do not fit. Elimination is powerful because many options are designed to sound plausible, but they violate a constraint in the question or they solve a different problem than the one presented. When you eliminate, you are not guessing. You are narrowing the field using logic. Once you have narrowed, you choose the best remaining option and commit. Commitment matters because second-guessing consumes time and often causes you to abandon correct answers based on emotion rather than evidence. If you have a habit of changing answers, a decisive plan means you only change when you can name a clear reason tied to the question's wording or a concept contrast. This prevents the common pattern where anxiety drives random switching. Time management is part of calm execution because time pressure is a major amplifier of stress. If you fall behind, you may start rushing, and rushing creates reading errors and shallow reasoning. The solution is not to obsess over the clock constantly, but to maintain a sense of pacing so you can adjust early if needed. A calm pacing habit might involve noticing after a small set of questions whether you are moving smoothly or getting bogged down. If you are bogged down, the plan is to make strategic choices. Decide which questions deserve extra time and which should be answered and left alone. Some questions will be quick wins, and those build momentum, while others will be slower because they require careful reasoning. The key is not to let a single hard question steal your confidence and your time budget. When you notice yourself looping, the best move is often to pick the best answer you can based on elimination and move on, trusting that you will recover points through consistency across the rest of the exam. Calm time management means you treat time as a resource to allocate, not as a countdown that threatens you. Another piece of executing to full effect is recognizing the difference between knowing and not knowing, because your confidence calibration should still operate during the exam. When you truly know an answer, you should choose it with minimal delay and move on, because overthinking a known answer wastes time and increases the chance you talk yourself out of it. When you do not know, you should not panic, because not knowing is expected, and the exam is designed to include items that stretch you. In that case, you switch to reasoning mode. Identify what the question is testing, eliminate wrong options, and choose the option that best matches the correct principle. This is where understanding beats memorization, because if you understand why governance emphasizes ownership and reviews, you can answer questions that are framed in unfamiliar ways. Confidence calibration also helps you avoid extreme behaviors, like rushing through uncertain questions or freezing because you want perfect certainty. A balanced approach is to accept reasonable uncertainty and make the best decision with the information you have. That is how competent professionals operate under pressure, and it is what the exam is measuring. Misread protection is a specific strategy worth practicing on exam day because misreads are among the most preventable errors. Misreads often happen around words like best, most likely, primarily, first, or except, because those words change what the question requires. A calm game plan includes a quick mental check that asks what the question is asking you to optimize for, because best is usually about choosing the most appropriate option given constraints. It also includes noticing whether the question is asking about strategy versus tactics, because some distractors are correct ideas applied at the wrong level. For example, a tactical action might be reasonable, but the question might be asking for a governance mechanism, such as defining an owner or establishing a review cadence. If you answer tactically when a strategic answer is required, you lose points even though your idea is not wrong in general. A calm approach keeps you from being tricked by plausible answers that do not match intent. This is also where your contrast cues help, because they remind you to separate close concepts that distractors try to blend. Decision fatigue is another exam day reality, and calm execution means planning for it rather than being surprised by it. As you progress, your brain can become more impulsive or more doubtful, and both patterns can reduce accuracy. The way to protect against this is to rely on your decision loop instead of relying on how you feel. When you feel tired, you do not speed up randomly, and you do not slow down into paralysis. You simply continue the loop. Intent, recall, elimination, commit. If you notice your mind wandering, you gently bring it back to the question in front of you, not the outcome you fear. This is a skill, and it improves when you treat it like a normal part of performance rather than as a personal weakness. You can also protect yourself by using short mental resets between questions, like a brief breath and a quick posture adjustment, because small resets can restore attention without costing meaningful time. The goal is not to be perfect for every question, but to be consistent. Consistency is what produces a strong score even when fatigue appears. Handling uncertainty calmly also means using logic to avoid common traps in answer choices. Distractors often include extreme language that sounds absolute, because absolutes are rarely correct in governance and risk work. Other distractors present actions that are correct in a different stage, like proposing a complex advanced capability when the real need is foundational clarity and ownership. Some distractors are attractive because they sound busy and proactive, like launching a broad initiative, when the best answer is targeted and risk-based. A calm exam day plan recognizes these patterns and uses them to eliminate options. This is not game playing. It is understanding how questions are constructed to test your ability to apply principles. When you remove options that violate principles, the remaining choice becomes clearer. Your goal is to choose what best aligns with mission, risk, and realistic execution, because those are recurring themes across governance. When you keep those themes in mind, even unfamiliar questions become manageable. Another part of full-effect execution is maintaining a healthy relationship with your own mistakes during the exam. If you realize you made an error, the worst thing you can do is let that error hijack your attention for multiple questions afterward. A calm game plan treats each question as independent and treats the exam as a long series of opportunities to score points. When you stumble, you acknowledge it briefly and then return to the decision loop on the next question. This is where decisiveness is protective because it prevents spirals. If you have a review feature available in the exam interface, you use it strategically rather than emotionally, marking only those questions where you have a clear reason to revisit, not every question that made you feel uncertain. Emotional marking creates a huge list that becomes overwhelming later. Strategic marking creates a small list where you can apply your best thinking if time remains. This is how you stay calm. You organize uncertainty rather than drowning in it. As you approach the end, your focus should shift slightly toward protecting accuracy rather than chasing speed, because late in the exam, many learners rush to finish and then make avoidable errors. If you have time, you revisit only those marked questions where you can articulate a reason you might improve the answer. If you cannot articulate a reason, you avoid changing answers out of anxiety, because anxiety-driven changes often lower scores. If you do revisit, you reread the question carefully and check that your chosen answer matches the question's intent. Often the right move is to trust your first well-reasoned decision. Calm finishing is a skill because it resists the urge to treat the last minutes as a scramble. A steady finish is also psychologically helpful because it leaves you with a sense of control rather than chaos. That feeling matters because it reduces the temptation to replay the exam afterward with regret, and it helps you recover quickly regardless of outcome. The exam is a finite performance, and you want to leave it knowing you executed your method. Executing your exam day game plan calmly, decisively, and to full effect is ultimately about protecting the performance of your mind under pressure. You create a stable starting condition, read questions with intent, use a consistent decision loop, manage time as a resource, and rely on confidence calibration to avoid both overconfidence and paralysis. You protect against misreads, use elimination logic to handle uncertainty, and manage fatigue by leaning on method instead of emotion. You treat mistakes as isolated events rather than as threats, and you finish with the same discipline you used at the start. For beginners, the most important takeaway is that exam day is not a test of how anxious you are. It is a test of how consistently you can apply concepts and reasoning. A calm game plan gives you a structure that holds up even when you feel nervous, because structure reduces cognitive load and preserves your ability to think. If you follow that structure from beginning to end, you will use your preparation fully, and you will walk away knowing you performed with control, clarity, and purpose.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.